Yeah, you read the title. I work as a journalist for a super small and local company, so I can't exactly say who that is or I'd be doxing myself. But here's a look at my equipment so you know I at least do something and I'm not just making it up. I started YouTube in 2020 during the lockdown as something to do when we had a bunch of free time. I imagine a lot of people did the same. And I was kind of off and on until maybe the end of 2022 or so, where I started getting serious about it and actually getting consistent and seeing some results. And my content really doesn't have anything to do with this topic. I mostly do gaming videos, so you'll probably see some cool video game footage in the background whenever I'm not showing a specific thing. But this is something that's still important to me in my real life, I guess, as a journalist. Being able to speak how I feel, or in the case of journalism, to spread the truth. It's something I hold very dearly. And having massive entities like several countries' governments or huge companies like YouTube trying to take that away from us just doesn't sit right with me. So I thought I would just help to spread the awareness a little bit more to whatever reach I might have. I have no idea if this video is just going to be seen by nobody, or if it's going to end up overtaking all of my other content. The algorithm is just weird like that sometimes. The more people spreading awareness and sharing ideas like this, the more likely it is that the algorithm is going to screw up and end up making a video that's harmful to YouTube super popular. So I thought I would join in on that. So the first thing I want to talk about is what the reasoning is behind doing this. The reasoning that they're saying and the actual reasoning. On top of that, we'll talk about what could be done to solve the actual problem they say they're trying to solve. And the last part of the video, I'm going to talk about things that I've been doing to fight back, and of course what you guys can do as well. I'll talk about some interesting stuff, things like ad blocks, Graphene OS, YouTube Revanced, that kind of thing. But first off, why is there a big push for censorship anyway? Well, the reason they're pushing is to protect children, which is a pretty common shield for pushing shitty legislation. Basically, the problem is that people just being able to set their age isn't good enough because it's too easy to lie about your age and say you're older than you are. So this will give kids access to content that they shouldn't be seeing, and there is plenty of that in YouTube, just in actual videos. You can absolutely find adult content in videos, or channels covering topics that kids probably shouldn't be seeing, and that of course is a problem, but it's a problem that is for one, already half fixed by the system already in place, and for two, is more so on the parents for monitoring their kids, obviously. Now, the whole thing with parents parenting their kids, that's already been beaten into the ground, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I think an interesting point to make is that kids generally are watching kids' content. In fact, we can say that that's true because that is the AI system that YouTube is trying to push, is that if it seems like you watch childish stuff, you're going to be labeled as a kid. And you can already detect people who are watching childish stuff with the whole algorithm that finds content for them to watch, like on their homepage. If you watch Coco Melon and stuff, you're gonna get recommended children's content, right? And if you have a bunch of children's content in your algorithm, you're not very likely to get fed something you're not supposed to see. But as we all know, that's not exactly how it's ended up. But that is entirely because of a problem that this, for one, won't solve, and for two, has been widely ignored by YouTube for years now. Everybody heard about ElsaGate when it happened, and that really hasn't disappeared. There's still so many things that are under a guise of kids' content that just teach horrifying lessons, or they're just about terrible topics, and at best, it's brain-rotting slop, truly. And this isn't even getting into the side of the advertisements that have even less moderation than these videos somehow do, where you could have ads containing scams, blatant scams, obvious scams. You know, think of the AI puppies, right? Or the robot puppies that are just AI generated videos. You know, the most obvious scam in the universe. I could show that video to an elementary school and they'd tell me it's fake, but somehow it made it past YouTube and was sent to millions of people. In fact, it was specifically designed to be sent to kids. The entire marketing was designed for kids to see it and try to get their grandparents to buy it for them, in the hopes that their grandparents wouldn't recognize that it's a fake video. And that's something that is genuinely harmful to kids. It's just harmful to everyone, really, but those ads were allowed to play for months before anything happened. And even if they aren't playing on YouTube anymore, who knows whether that was YouTube actually stopping them, or whether that was just all of the publicity making it not profitable anymore. And since we're on the topic of ads, why don't we talk about what a big deal ads are in general just on the internet? And this is actually something that I think people can have an influence on. because the entire point of ads is to sell things to consumers. For whatever reason, ads are working on people. I really don't understand it personally. And I'm at a point now where anytime I see an ad for anything, I immediately assume the worst. I assume it's manipulative garbage slop, and they want nothing but to rob me of my money and give me nothing. And I don't understand how anybody can see an ad and think anything else. There's obviously a level of ads that are acceptable for running a free website, and YouTube probably had that pretty well balanced in 2016. And even myself, for a while, I was running YouTube with ads on, just because I wanted to, support the creators I'm watching for free. But I actually remember my breaking point where I went ahead and just disabled all the ads for me. And that was when I got a banner ad while I was in the middle of watching a video in full screen on my phone. So I went ahead and did the things I needed to do, and now I never see any ads on YouTube videos. Sorry to all my homies I watch. But YouTube pushed it way too hard, and now they don't get a cent from me. And I'll talk more about how I did that towards the end of the video. But for now, I kind of want to stay on this topic of advertising because I think it is a very important one. Advertising has just become normalized. And it wasn't normalized because people wanted it to be. It was normalized by giant corporations that had a budget to try to make it seem normal by all kind of sneaking it in gradually and making it seem like it's not that big of a deal every time they add more. You just add a few ads here and there, it's like a minor sacrifice, times are tough, the service is expensive to run, right? It's hard to get all these shows for you to watch, whatever it is. But it's gotten to a point now where it's not normal, and ads are just shoved down your throat everywhere to the point that the internet is almost unusable without an ad block now. And the solution to that by these companies obviously isn't to reduce the number of ads to a reasonable amount, where people don't feel the need to use external software to make their websites usable. No, the answer is of course to go after ad blocks. The example we've seen with YouTube right away. And there are plenty of sites that try to detect your ad block and make you turn it off, and some of them can be worked around and some of them can't. Ultimately though, I think the problem comes from people just being suckers. I was raised by my parents to think critically about the things presented to me, to look for flaws in the things that people present to me as truth or as norm. And so of course advertisements are full of that. You see these obviously fake or exaggerated situations that are designed entirely just to get you to spend money on them. And I wish that more people could think critically, but unfortunately a lot of the world just seems to not be that bright, or just not be able to pay attention to the things around them. This is where I think I'm going to kind of branch away from a lot of other people talking about this, where I'm going to bring my experience as a journalist into it some. So I do local level news style journalism. So I go and listen to the radio at night, and I go to where cops are at, right? So I see a lot of really interesting things, and I meet a lot of people that have a lot of run-ins with the police. It's just how it goes. And there are so many people out there that just can't solve problems themselves. They just have to be told exactly what to do and how to do it. And I think that those are the people that fall for advertising, and people like that are the reason that it's as profitable as it is. The greatest example is whenever police shut down a road for a crash scene or something like that. The amount of people I've seen who just can't solve the problem of this roadblock being in their way, where they either just stop and ask the police if they can go through or something stupid like that. Whereas if I'm in that situation, obviously, I'm going to look at the nearest side street to just go around it, or go through a parking lot nearby, or maybe look at Google Maps to find an alternate route. But the amount of people I see that just can't solve their own problems is amazing. But I think that's enough talking about ads. We all know that ads suck, and you should probably be using an ad block. I definitely recommend using Firefox with uBlock Origin. It's done great for me. And you can run that on literally any computer, Windows, Linux, Mac. They all have access to Firefox and uBlock Origin, and it also works on all the phones I can think of. So let's use that as a bit of a segue into the things that you can do about it. If we've learned anything historically, it's that the only reason that corporations will ever backtrack on things, it's if it hurts them on their profits. So we have to do just that. Otherwise we might end up in a world where we have to log in with our ID to use the internet. The biggest thing I did, and the thing that I think the most people could do, is if you use YouTube on a computer, use an ad block. Use uBlock Origin, that's what I recommend, and I think that's been the kind of number one that's been keeping up with YouTube's arm race against ad block. But if you want to be on mobile, you can use something called YouTube Revanced, which is a really cool thing. However, it is unfortunately locked to Android only. But the basic idea is downloading an unofficial version of YouTube. And when I say that, I don't mean some kind of like sketchy pirate site. There are basically preservation sites that hold on to old versions of apps, and all you do is download an old official version of YouTube that can be modified a little bit easier than the newest one. And once you get that, and you've downloaded Revanced from their site, Revanced will basically modify that extra YouTube that you have on your phone into the Revanced YouTube that people talk about, the one that has no ads, the one that you can turn the screen off of and still listen to the videos on. And as far as I know, Revanced has every premium feature in it for free, so it's a really nice setup. There's a ton of features on Revanced that you can check out if you're interested, and it's completely modular, so if you don't like anything, you can turn it off. The reason this works is because it's an extra version of YouTube, and it's not the one that came with your phone, which is basically heavily locked down and can't be modified or removed at all. If that's something you want to do, I'll leave a link to the official Revanced website down below, and they have a guide on how to do their process on there, so I'll leave it to them, because if the process changes, it'll be reflected on the website, but not this video. The next thing I did was a very big step up from that, and that was actually installing something called Graphene OS, which you might have heard if you watched PewDiePie's video about getting rid of Google, because he also got Graphene OS, and he put that idea in a lot of people's heads, and gave it a lot of mainstream attention. For those of you unfamiliar, Graphene OS is kind of a extreme privacy security OS for Android. And the funniest part is that it is specifically made for Google Pixel phones. They have a ton of information in depth on their site, but I'll go over kind of the basics for anybody who's curious. Pretty much they do a bunch of stuff in the background that makes things much more safe, secure, private, that kind of thing. And it gives you more control over the phone as well, like limiting permissions for every app. The biggest feature that I use the most is being able to take away network permissions for individual apps without having to just turn off Wi-Fi. For example, the Google keyboard by default that every phone comes with is connected to the internet and can send things to the internet. And why would it do that other than to deliver whatever you're typing to Google? Well, on GrapheneOS, you can A, just not use Google keyboard, or B, you can use Google keyboard but not give it any internet access. And that's just one small example in all of it. You can use the OS like a completely normal person using regular Android, and there are very few inconsistencies. There are certain banking apps that don't work, but I believe that that's covered on their website, so you can look for that if you want to see if your banking apps are going to be affected. But other than that, pretty much everything runs on this exactly as it does in normal Android, at least when it comes to functionality. But you can go way down the rabbit hole with this OS with some absolutely insane features. Like the one I use to kind of just explain how deep this OS goes is the duress password, where you can have a fake password to unlock your phone, but instead of unlocking your phone, it completely wipes it. And that's just a situation basically no real people are ever going to be in, but that's just the level of security that there is on the phone. And I've been using it for a little bit now, and it has been a really great experience, honestly. I have full control over my phone, I can do exactly what I want with it, and it doesn't come with all of the bloatware and garbage. And the best part is that I'm still able to use regular Android apps, and they actually have a little safety feature for that, which is sandboxing them. Essentially, it creates a little fake environment for the Google Play services to run. Because if you guys didn't know, if you just take away all the data from the Google services, it just freaks out and makes the phone not work, because Google wants that tasty data from you. So Graphene did the smart thing of creating a fake environment for the Google services to play in and think it's getting data from you on, which allows you to use regular apps from the Google Play Store just fine, but also protects your data much better. All this stuff is explained better on their website, so I'll have that link down below if you're interested as well. But that was just another thing I've kind of done to take my privacy back from all the corporations and even governments at this point trying to just extract all the information about me they possibly can for God knows what. And in the process, I've become more tech literate and developed better problem solving skills. Overall, it's been a really great experience doing it. So anyway, if you ended up at this video and you don't actually know anything about me or what I do on my channel, I make gaming videos, mostly challenge videos, stuff like beating games without something to make it harder, right? So if you think you'd enjoy that kind of thing, I would appreciate if you did subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.